Hello and good evening, and welcome back to another exciting, riveting, and whatever other adjectives you want to throw in here, exciting podcast. This is episode 10. It's a decade. No, it's not a decade. That's not quite the right word, but
It's a decade. Well, no, because a decade is 10 years.
it's a decadecast. That's it. It's now
Gone.
exactly. We've gone what is it? Metric. That's it. It's a decacast, right?
Okay, we've gone metric. So pull up a chair and grab a mug, won't you?
I love how she never knows exactly what I'm going to say, and there are times when I don't know what I'm going to say. So
yeah, I was gonna throw that in, but you already got it. For those new listeners, it might help if they knew who we were.
I am Coffee, aka Craig, or is it Craig, aka Coffee? I was confused those two.
How much coffee have you had?
Barely a sip.
That's your first cup of the day?
Oh no.
Okay, so
second cup of the day.
Oh dear, you got to cut the caffeine.
Yes.
While he's doing some mental math to calculate how many cups he's had, I'm Cuddles, aka Anna Marie.
No, that it can't be cups of coffee. We're metric now, so I don't know what that would be.
I don't know what cups are in metric.
I don't know.
Something.
You're the teacher. You tell me.
We haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh, sure.
We're still working on currency.
Currently currency?
Currently currency.
Gotcha. Well, we hope after our last episode we didn't run anybody off, and we appreciate each and every one of you that are here listening. Tonight we're talking about great unexpectations, or now and then, or we'll have some kind of title by the time this is done. Essentially, we were talking, and what we came up with for this topic was unrealistic expectations that partners have for one another.
So basically, what were you expecting going into your relationships, and how did that bring us together?
I thought love will bring us together.
Well, of course.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
By all, ladies first.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So I'm the oldest of four, and I grew up born and raised Catholic. And in my home, my father was the one to bring home the bacon, and my mother was the one to cook it. That sounds so bad. My father was the breadwinner. He was the one who went out to work, and my mom was the homemaker and took care of the four of us.
Please file all feminist complaints with our P.O. box.
We have a P.O. box?
I'm sure we do.
Somewhere in the metric system. Postal system, metric system.
Solar system, some kind of system.
Oh, dear. I had coffee today. My parent brought me a very tall cup of coffee. So I kind of went into the idea of, well, as I was growing up, to me, that made sense. So women stayed home and took care of the home and the husband and the children, and the husband went out and worked. So I kind of went into my relationship sort of with that in the back of my head. And that is definitely not where my relationships were going, not in any sense of the word.
It was kind of that way for me too, because when I was very young, both my grandparents worked. But it always seemed like when they were at home, my grandmother would set the table, and my grandmother would lay out my grandfather's pills for him, and she would make sure that his socks and shoes are at his chair in the morning so he can get dressed. And she would get up at dark 30 to make sure he had a thermos full of coffee, even though she didn't have to get up. And that was fine. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that kind of relationship. Hey, if it works for you and you feel appreciated and, deserving and whatever, then great. Fine for you. Wonderful. That's not always how reality works, though. My mother used to be like that, and then she started working, and all that kind of went by. Actually, as the children got older, it was more of us doing things around the house and less of her doing things around the house. We learned how to cook. We learned how to wash our own laundry. We learned how to do dishes. We learned all that stuff. So my going into relationships was I was raised the man is the breadwinner, and no one can ever explain to me what they did to win this bread. Was there a bakery contest? Was there like a fight you had to do in the street? I won the bread, threw hoops around the bread.
Threw hoops around the bread.
Oh, all right. That makes much more sense now. So
unless there was a hole in the bread in which she threw ping pong balls.
Right. No, that works too, Yes, you have a question.
No, I don't have a question, but I wanted to throw something in based on something that you said. So I don't want anyone to think that my siblings and I never lifted a finger. I mean, as we got older and we got more responsibilities, yes, we learned about, doing the laundry and helping out and all that. And something else that I wanted to say is we are not in any way knocking these types of relationships. If you are in that type of relationship, like Craig said, and that works for you, that is absolutely wonderful. I don't want anyone to think that we are telling people how their relationships need to go. We are not counselors. We are not therapists. We are not saying this is the way you need to do things. So I just want to make sure that everybody, knew that, again, we're not telling you how to live. It's just, this is what we kind of grew up with.
Yes. Like Anna Marie said earlier, for anybody that's listening for the first time, we are talking about our own personal relationships and our own personal experiences, and we don't try to tell anybody how to live, because that would be silly of us, because neither one of us are experts at this, and neither one of us are all that great at it, but we're learning, we're growing. And as I like to tease her, I have an open mindset.
Growth mindset. Very good, honey. So I'm sorry that you were talking.
That's all right. Go ahead.
So I kind of went into my dating life, so to speak, kind of with this mindset that, when I found Mr. Right, this is the way things were going to go. And of course, through the trials and tribulations of dating, it wasn't easy to find the one who kind of fit that scenario in my head. And then when I got married, that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. But with things the way they are nowadays and the way things cost, we became a 2-income household. So there was no one of us worked and the other one stayed home. We were both working and bring money into the relationship.
Absolutely. And I had some of that as well, but there were times when it felt like, I don't want to speak in absolutes, because I don't really believe, I try not to lean that way, and I don't believe in absolutes. It's never going to be never. It's never going to be always. It's not always, and it's not never, never. And our cat just did a half gainer off the desk, and she's fine. The Russian judge gives her a 9.5.
And the East German judge gives her a 10 for just because.
They're very cat forward.
Very cat forward.
But where was I?
Mama.
So I don't want to use absolutes. So it seemed to me like there were times that I was the one doing the cooking and the cleaning and the laundering and the whatever. And this was with, not just one of my marriages. I've had a few. I've been around the block several times. So I've experienced this from all different sides and all different scenarios. And I will tell you that one person doing more than like 60% of the work is ridiculous and BS, and it doesn't work. At least it doesn't work for me. If you find, like I said, if you find the situation works for you, that's great. I'm not knocking it. I'm not poking fun at you. I'm not looking, down my nose at you saying, oh, dear God, how could you put up with that? Because if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't work for you, then absolutely talk to your partner, because, there's no relationship worth being unhappy all the time for.
So I went from living in my family home to living with a boyfriend who eventually became my husband, and a lot of like the typical household things, because like I said, we were both working. It kind of became, I don't know if it was necessarily 50-50, but it just seemed like, hey, laundry needs to be done, so I'm going to run this load down. While I'm doing this, could you go and switch machines? That kind of thing. I will say that a lot of meal prep did fall more on him because I'm not great in the kitchen. Craig's doing a great job of helping me out with that. He is sitting here laughing. So, okay, I have to share this. I just because you're laughing. So, when Craig and I first met, it was a lot of phone conversations, and this one particular night, I decided that I was going to prepare steak and potatoes, and I was going to cook this. And I don't know how the conversation came about, but it was asked of me if I could identify the protein after I cooked it.
No, that was you were asking me if I could identify the protein.
Oh, okay,
But
sorry.
you were with the potatoes, and are they fully cooked?
So I don't think either one of us is going to forget that. So yeah, I kind of consider myself a bit of a disaster in the kitchen, and I know a lot of you are saying, but the way you grew up, didn't your mom teach you? There were things that she taught me how to do, but she was very much, mom, and she would take care of her family and meal times and all that. She was just the one who was kind of doing it. I was in the kitchen with her and helping and whatnot, but somehow catching on to how to do things just never fully clicked in my head.
Now, I will say, in all fairness, that yes, Anna is a bit of a ne'er-do-well in the kitchen, but she's learned. She's learning, and she's open to it, and she's not afraid to try new things, and she's not afraid to ask questions. And I don't always ask for help because I've been in that mindset forever where I don't expect help in the kitchen anymore because I would ask and I would never get them. There I go again. I would ask, and more times than not, I would not get the help that I needed. So I wound up doing all the prep work, all the cooking, all the cleanup, all of everything. And sometimes it would even be where I would clean up like the table afterwards for various reasons. So it's not her fault in any way, shape, or form that she doesn't help out in the kitchen more because I don't ask. I'm just so used to doing it. But now I have an actual partner, like a real girlfriend that is willing to help me with whatever I need. It doesn't matter if it's cooking or cleaning or something business related or whatever it is. I know that I have her to rely on. And we try to keep it 50-50. Sometimes I do a little bit more. Sometimes she does a little bit more. But I'm of the mindset that she's outside the house all day, so she should not have to come home. Like a couple months ago, there was dishes in the sink, and I just did them. And she said, "Oh, thank you." And I said, "Well, you're at work all day. You should not have to come home to a sink full of dishes." So I like doing things like that for her.
Which is very much appreciated, because when my first, my first, when my marriage ended, it suddenly became me by myself. And like I said, I went from living at home to living with boyfriend who became husband. So I never was on my own before. So suddenly I found myself having to do all of it. The cooking had to get done, the dishes, the laundry, if things were piling up, that was on me, getting the trash cans out. And it was hard trying to get everything done. And I suddenly realized, there was a lot more that my mom was doing than I think I ever truly realized or appreciated, because everything fell on me at that point.
I never had the living alone thing. I went from my mother's house to the Navy to different naval bases to living in dorms on the naval bases. And the schools I went to. And then in Charleston, I was stationed on, I was living on base in the dorm. I think we called them dorms. I don't remember. But I was living in the dorm, and then a friend of mine and I got a house out in town in Old Town Charleston, and I moved in with roommates, and then I moved from that to the next duty station was the ship in Norfolk, and I went from the ship to more roommates to living with my girlfriend to her becoming my wife and living with her. I take that back. I did live on my own for a few months in Tulsa. I was between girlfriends, I guess, at that point. So I lived on my own for a little while, and when that didn't work out, I moved in with somebody from my church, and then I moved back in with a girlfriend again. So I've never really experienced the alone thing. Although I have done the lifestyle where it was like like I was living on my own.
It's It was hard. I have to say it was hard because there would be days that I would just be exhausted from work, and I knew that the dishes needed to be done or the laundry needed to be washed or trash needed to be taken outside. And there were some days that it's like I would give anything to have a little help. If somebody would just take one thing off my plate, it would be so much appreciated. But when it became me, it's one of those, you got to grin and bear it. You got to get it going. You got to get it done. And somehow, some way, I just would get those things done. And then when Craig came into the picture, I know that we'd be on the phone and I'd be saying something about, hey, I'm going to hop in the car. We're going to head to the store. And he would be on the phone while I was, going to the store, going to a doctor's appointment, or trying to get the trash taken outside or get the dog walked or whatever it was. And I hope that I was never like whining and complaining about what all I had to
No,
get done.
you were a person that was just overwhelmed by the sheer amount, excuse me, amount of what you had to do, and I totally get that. So I think it's very important that partners help each other out.
Mm-hmm. So I think at that point I started thinking back, to what life was like when I was growing up. And I thought, I don't know that my next relationship, I don't know that I want it to be one person does A and the other person does B, C, D, E, F, and G. So I figured, the next relationship that I get into, I think I want more of, well, I think you said it best, more of a partnership
Mm-hmm.
where, you don't have everything stacked on your side and the other side's just not doing as much. I don't want to say not doing anything because that's not realistic.
Right, and to your point about one person doing A and one person doing B, C, whatever. If you're better at cooking, then by all means do it. But then your partner should step up and offer to help with prep or help with cleanup. There's a website, I think it's called You Wash, I Dry or something, where they take turns doing it. If one person cooks, the other one cleans up, and then they switch, and that the person that was cleaning is now cooking and whatever. And if that situation doesn't work for you, then by all means talk to your partner. I think you'll notice that in 10 episodes, we keep coming back to the recurring theme of communication. It's very important in any relationship to be open. When I got here, there was no expectations of, and it was going to do this and I was going to do that. There was no preconceived notions. It just, we sort of fell into, I'm the cook in the family and she's not, and that's fine. And I have no issues with that. But she would say, you cook, so I will clean up the table and I will do this and I'll do that. And she's 100% a real genuine partner to me, where she helps and she picks up the slack when I can't.
And I have to say, there are days when there's stuff that I know I need to do, and I will tell him, remind me when I get home. Please remind me. I need to get that load of towels done. And I would come home just exhausted from the day, and he would get this big grin on his face and say, hey, you wanted me to, and I'm like, oh, the towels, I gotta go. And he'd say, they're already drying.
Already done.
It's good. And it's like,
I think that's my favorite thing to do with you. It's already done.
Oh yeah.
Like just yesterday, you asked me to make sure that dark clothes got washed, and I washed them first thing in the morning, and we were going somewhere in the car last night, and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to wash the clothes. And I just got this grin on my face, and you looked over and you saw like the smile, and and you said, thank you, babe.
Washed, dried, folded, and put away.
It was a rare day for me. I'm not going to lie. Because there are days when I wash them, like, I don't want to fold this crap. And I'll leave it to her to fold, or I'll leave it and she'll fold it. Usually that's not my intention, because I like having, I'll take an hour or whatever out of my day to fold all the clothes and put them away, and fold towels and put them away, and all this stuff, because I don't like piles of stuff everywhere. It drives me absolutely batty.
And there are weekend mornings that I will get up early, either because I heard the dog or just because my brain thinks it's a weekday, you got to get up. And I'll be out in the kitchen going, you know what, let me get these going. And he'll wake up and realize that the dishes are already going. And he'll say, oh my gosh, thank you for starting those. Or he'll notice that, things that were in the basket to be folded are now folded. And before anybody says, oh, why didn't you put them away? Sometimes it's because what has to be put away happens to be in the room where he's asleep, and I don't want to wake him up, because he certainly gets up early enough for me during the week just to help get me out the door.
That's that partner thing. I've been doing that. I think I started that on day one. Yep. I got up with you when you got up. Well, I got up a little bit later than you, because you didn't want to get me up at 5:30.
No, I didn't.
I think you woke me up at like 6:30. And I'm like, what can I do to help? And you're like, if you wouldn't mind, could you do this? Could you do that? And now we're just in that routine where if there aren't pancakes already like made and in the freezer for her, I will make her pancakes, because she was one that would never eat in the morning. She'd grab like a protein bar or a Kit Kat or Reese's or a Rice Krispie treat. And this is my breakfast. No, that's not going to do. I'm sorry.
Or grab a yogurt.
Right. That's not a bagel. We did bagels and cream cheese for a while, but that's not, to me, that's, pancakes are not like a proper breakfast, but it was a hot meal that I was sending her off with. So if that means I lose 5 minutes of sleep in the morning, so what? It's not that big a deal to me. I would rather have you not stressed in the morning saying, because I would be on the phone with you or on Zoom or Discord or whatever, and I would hear you in the morning trying to get ready to go, and like, oh my God, I got to do this. And oh my God, I got to find my thermos. I got to put water. I got to get ice. I got to do all these things. And I came here and you were just like agog with, what do you mean everything's done and I'm ready to go to work? I don't understand this. What do we need me to do? Absolutely nothing.
I think that like first morning, because he moved here, and his first day here, or let's see, I picked you up after work. And then the next day it's like, oh my gosh, you just moved here and I'm having to abandon you to go to work. And I remember saying, if you wouldn't mind, could you put a lunch together for me? And you were like, yeah, no problem. I'm on it. And I never told you this, but it was just a relief to have like one thing
done,
taken off my plate. And right. I don't know at what point the pancake thing started, or no, sometimes it was scrambled eggs and toast.
Yeah. We haven't done that in a while.
And then it became pancakes.
That was a conversation like, by the way, do you like pancakes? Yeah. Okay. And I filed that away in my head. And then one day I got up and we had pancake mix, and I said, oh, here you go. Here's pancakes for you.
I used to leave for work just completely stressed out about everything that had to be done. And I wanted to be on the road by a certain time. And if I wasn't on the road by a certain time, then I was driving to work completely stressed out. Like, oh my gosh, I got to get to work. There's so many things I have to do. But now it's like, it's just nice having somebody who doesn't mind, you know, grabbing my water bottle, or hey, hey, there's breakfast when you're ready for it, or whatever it might be. And it's just so weird.
And I don't want it to sound like I'm making like Gordon Ramsay level meals for her. It could be a frozen meal, it could be a bag of salad, it could be whatever she wants. Sometimes I will make her chicken salad, in the mornings, or
I always feel guilty about asking you, could you
peanut butter and jelly, or whatever it is that she wants. And I'll put that in the bag, and I'll put snacks in the bag, and I'll make sure she has a bottle of water. And I write a note for her every morning. I don't think I've missed a day since I've been here.
Nope. But everybody always waits to see if I'm going to pull a Post-it note out of my bag.
She gets a Post-it every day in her lunch, just to let her know that I'm thinking about her, that I appreciate her, or whatever, that she's not in this by herself, kind of thing. And I think that's a great routine that we have. I've never had anything like this.
Neither have I.
And it's just, this works for us. It may not work for you, but it works for us. Find what works for you is what I'm saying.
So here's where, we were thinking about this episode is, what did we kind of go into relationships thinking it would be like, and how did it kind of come around to where we are? So I think it really did come to like a 50, for lack of a better term, a 50-50 thing.
I think so. If not, it's so close that it's not something you can really quantify.
Right. And for me, it is a huge help. When my first marriage ended, I was dealing with an autoimmune disease, which I think I will save that for another episode. And it would make some days just incredibly hard. Like I couldn't handle it. So just having somebody who doesn't mind getting up at 6:30 and, hey, would you like chicken salad today? Let me whip some up for you. Or, hey, those clothes are already folded or washed or whatever it may be, is a help. So if it's sous chef that helps you, or getting dishes going, or whatever it may be, I'm happy to do it.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you do the things that I don't. And I appreciate that I don't feel like I have to do a million things, because there have been times when I've had like 37 plates spinning in the air, and you come along and you like take those away from me. Say, I got these. I'll keep these spinning for you, kind of thing. And it's never, I don't want to say never, but it's almost never where I have to ask you to do something, or I have to beg and whine and wheedle and cajole and all those other things. Or like, oh my God, would you please help me with this? It's never gotten to that point, because I will say I need to do this, and you're like, don't worry about it. I got you, babe. And that's how it works out.
So anyway, that's where we were then, and that's where we are now. So we hope you got something out of this. Again, we're not telling anyone how to live their lives. You may have opinions that are different from ours, and that's
okay.
So what is it that you say? This is just our 2 cents. Your own mileage may vary. So we will be back here next week, and
with another riveting episode. As a little teaser, next week we're talking about the little things.
The little things. What's that?
You'll have to tune in and find out. As always, we thank you all for being here. We love each and every one of you. We appreciate you. We hope to see you again, or you listen to us again next week. We love you, and God bless.